All around us we can see God's genius design in all of creation. This is our wonderful world. Coming up, there's nothing new under the sun. We're going to see how some of the best inventions are based on God's design. These days, copying designs we find in nature is a huge industry, as many inventors realize that living things work better than anything that we could ever make. For many years, scientists were stumped by the humble bee. By their calculations, it shouldn't be able to fly. The first line of Bee Movie says it best. According to all known laws of aviation, there is no way that a bee should be able to fly. Its wings are too small to get its fat little body off the ground. The bee, of course, flies anyway, because bees don't care what humans think is impossible. After lots of research, scientists finally found out that a bee's wing creates a vortex, a mini tornado, at the edge of its wing. This sucks the wing upwards, making a bigger lift force than the bee could produce by itself. Scientists are now trying to copy this design for aircraft. If they manage to, much less fuel would be used for air travel. Beehives are also worth copying. The hexagon structure means bees can pack in as much honey as possible while still being super strong. If you make a hexagon using a piece of string, it will have a bigger area than if you made a triangle from it. How efficient! More and more, engineers are using the same ideas to make new building materials. Strong but flexible parts for bridges, tubeless tyres, and even making better surfboards. Other insects shouldn't be able to fly either. They flap their wings so fast that in theory they should get tired much quicker or even overheat. For instance, a midge's wings flap 1,000 times a second. Scientists have found out that insects don't use their muscles to flap their wings all of the time. Their muscles are bouncy. After they flap once, the wings will carry on bouncing up and down to keep them in the air. Genius! As per usual, there are lots of people now trying to copy this idea to make incredibly small flying machines. Most insects have compound eyes. This allows them to look in all directions at the same time. Some car manufacturers are basing a special sensor off these eyes to help their cars avoid crashes by looking in all directions. Scientists are also trying to use the same idea to improve body scanners in hospitals. In the book of Ecclesiastes in the Bible, the writer says this: "There is nothing new under the sun. Is there anything of which anyone can say, 'Look, this is something new'? It was here already, long ago. It was here before our time." The lotus plant can be often found growing in muddy streams, but its leaves are always clean. How? It's because the leaves are covered in tiny bumps which makes water clump together to make beads, which then roll off, taking dirt with them. This idea has been copied to make self-cleaning car windshields, and there's even a company called Lotus that makes a paint that does the same thing. Termites make huge nests, often called cathedrals, that can reach up to 9 meters high. The temperature outside can vary from 2 degrees Celsius to 42 degrees Celsius, but inside it's a nice constant 31 degrees Celsius. How do they manage that? That's because the network of tunnels found in the nest act like air conditioning. When architect Mike Pierce used this idea to design a shopping centre in Zimbabwe, they found that the building only used 10% of the energy of what a normal building of that size would use to keep it cool. The design of the gherkin in London is based off the Venus flower basket coral, which makes it very strong, stable, and it uses half the energy compared to other buildings. If we want to use less energy, nature has the answer once again. A woodpecker hammers away at a tree with a force 12 times that of the force that would be needed to knock us out and give us brain damage. How is that? It's the mind-blowing or mind-saving shock absorber inside their head, involving a skull with lots of holes in, a layer of fluid, and a tongue that wraps around the whole thing, all to absorb vibrations. Wow! New shock absorber designs are based off the woodpecker's head. Even Velcro was invented when George de Mestral saw how plant seeds were sticking to him and his dog due to the hairy little spikes or burrs on the outside. You know, we could go on and on looking at all the ways that people have copied God's design. There are so many examples. But if our inventions mimic living things, then who invented them? Many people will say that these are just an accident, just random changes without any design behind them. But isn't it far more logical to believe in a creator who was the one who knew the best way to make all living things?